let me tell you something that you should hopefully take with you for a long time because it's the most important thing about what we do. Never, under any circumstances, compromise your taste. Don't compromise what you know to be true in your head about how you feel about something you're working on. If you're working on something that you hate, you can't possibly do a good job. So the last thing you should do is accept that job. You should pass on it. And what we do, if we're mixing a song, for example, and we're getting paid for it, what we do is put our taste into what we're doing. And if we hate it, we will fight every step of the way with our own taste. And it's impossible to get a good result when you do that. Now, some people, you feel so lucky to get paid to do something that in your head, you're trying to make yourself love it for all you got. What can I do to love this? And you know you hate it the whole time. If that's the case, pass on it. And not only that, sometimes your taste winds up being the thing that somebody comes back to you for. For example, if you're working with somebody and they trust you and you tell them, listen, out of what you sent me, I can't use this track you sent because it's not good. The rest of everything you sent me is great, but there's this one thing in there that I don't want to put into this mix because it's not good. It's hurting the groove and the feel of the rest of this thing. Now, if you say that after you've gone through what somebody sends you and you assert yourself in a way that they understand that this is how you feel and you can't possibly make this good with this thing that's like an elephant in the room taking up space that's not helping the groove or the way the song feels. It's just hurting it. By asserting yourself and getting that out of the way, the person you're working with learns two things. One, they learn that there is somebody who actually has their best interest in mind because you deciding that something makes something worse in what you're doing means that they have an ally. They have somebody who will basically make sure that they don't make a mistake. So you become more valuable to that person if they trust you. If what you're saying is coming from a true place, you have a chance of them trusting you, going along with what you're saying, and at the end of the project, they may really like it. Every time we do something like that, we do take a risk. You take a risk that the person's going to say, I really want this in there. And then what do? You're at a crossroads of, you could say, all right, well, if you need this thing in there, I'm not going to work on the project because I got no choice. I have to follow my instincts. And then you risk just losing the work. They'll hire somebody else to do it. In my opinion, that's worth it. Every time, that's worth it. Because more often than not, somebody might want to know that you believe in this thing so much that you're willing to forego the money, give back what you got paid, because you cannot make something that you know is bad. And if you can identify what that is and tell them this has got to go, then it'll be great. Without that thing, it's great. But with this thing, it doesn't help. It hurts. And it sounds like something that's thrown in, not something that's supposed to be here. It's just getting in the way, making things too busy. Maybe just sonically, it's stepping on other things. It's destroying the groove. Whatever the reason is, you know what that is based on whatever it is you're hearing that you're objecting to. The first move is always to try to understand where they're coming from. Try to see if you can make it work in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not in a direct route or fashion, but you got to come out and say this to these people. You got to be like, listen, I believe this, and this shouldn't be there, or it should be there in a completely different way, not how you have it. It should be, it should be something else. And you could allow me to do that, and you could trust me to work on this thing for you, because I can't do something that I know is bad and hand it back to you. You become somebody much more valuable than a hired hand. What we do is not, paint a house. Somebody wants the house painted blue, we paint the house blue. That's not what we do. What we do is all tied up in who we are and our taste. That's why no mixer can possibly make a mix sound like another mixer's mix. We don't hear the same but we don't want to hear the same because our ears determine all our decisions. Every single choice we make throughout the mix is our ears. We can't possibly know what someone else likes, thinks, or would do when given a set of millions of choices that we would have to make before a mix is done every step of the way. So as a result, we are forced to be guided by our own torch the entire time we're mixing. So how could we go against that at the start when we know it's only going to get worse? No matter what we do with this thing in it, we can't possibly make it good. So get that out of the way. Talk about that. Become somebody who's confident enough to throw out the kind of work you don't want to do, which is anything you just don't understand or don't like. Because maybe one day you will understand it or one day you'll have different taste, but if you hate something you're getting, and you shouldn't be the one working on it, you should pass. So what I will often do if I get a project is I open it up, I listen to the files, and even if I've gotten paid, I will give back the money and say, this is not, I can't work on this for you. If there's something crazy in it, or I will identify what it is that I don't like to be super specific and be like, I love what you did here, but I don't like this. And as a result, I cannot work on this if you want this in it. If you're open-minded enough to allow me to change the way that this thing is and make it something that fits the song, that helps the song, then I can work on it. And if not, if you're determined to have this way, then I'm not your guy. I'm telling you, you'll be making yourself invaluable. There's nobody more valuable than somebody who's honest about how they feel about what they're working on. Nobody wants to hire somebody who's going to say, yeah, I love it. All right, it'll be great. And then at the end, you're going to be double talking yourself when you tell them it's not good. Sorry, it's not good. I couldn't do anything because of this thing you had in there. Like, I can't help it. It's, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to put yourself in that position? And the whole time you're mixing, you're going to be fighting yourself. So it'll take longer. It won't be good. You'll get nothing out of it. And you'll probably wind up losing the client. So what I found is rather than go through stuff like this, you might as well come out up right in front of it and be like, listen, I am absolutely not the guy for this if you need to have this way, because I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me, and I don't want to work on it because I will make it worse because I'm not understanding how you think this goes together, and I would like to take this out. And if you won't, we don't have to work together. It's a hard, scary conversation to have the first time you have it, but as long as you know for sure the way you feel, you could express this, and you have to, because ultimately we just even if you don't love the music, like, oh, I always listen to metal, so I can do a metal song, or I never listen to metal, so I don't want to do it. That's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying I often like music I hate. In other words, I could go see a show that a band sucks while they're playing live, and there's something about it that I can latch onto and I will like it. I have a tendency to force myself to like things that innately my gut reaction is to not like. So I know I'm coming from it. I'm coming from a point of view of how can I like this? What can I possibly grab onto that will make me like this? What is unique? What is cool? And the weirder and the worse something is, often, the easier it is to like. So the way I look at it is when I'm forced to be honest, those are my best mixes. When I'm forced to tell somebody, this will be great, except we got to get rid of this, it's because I like it so much and I know what would fix the problem. And the person who's so close to it might not be aware of it. It might have gone past them. Don't assume that people that people can zoom out on their own stuff the way someone can who's not so close to it. That's what you're hiring a mixer for, or a producer to work on your stuff with you. You're hiring them because they're going to give you another opinion. They're going to give you outside perspective on what this thing is. And if you could just do it all yourself, then do it all yourself. But if you actually value someone else's opinion, you want to know what they have to say, you want to know what can happen with this, with a little bit of collaboration with somebody who is as dedicated towards their craft as I am at mine, then it becomes a push-pull. It's like, okay, maybe I should listen because they love what I'm doing except for this one thing. It's not like they hate everything, so be specific and really get to know in your own head what it is that when you're hearing something that's either enforcing a groove or a feeling, like the overall vibe of it. In other words, if everything is nice and laid back and gets you going like this, but then something comes on that makes you start like twitching because the freaking thing is just coming out of left field and it's like nails on a chalkboard. Well, unless that's the purpose of it, why? Just why is it there? And get comfortable talking to people. That's why, if you really look up who these great mixers are, they are usually the ones that are also great communicators, because you need to be a great communicator to be a great mixer, just to be able to understand and have conversations with people about things like this. And producers are often, like, people who produce for artists are often so emotionally intelligent. They may not even realize it, but their ability to sense what's happening in a room and know how to deal with it is why they are as good as they are. All the best producers are like that. They are emotionally intelligent people, and they are great communicators in their own way. And it's so different from one to the next how they communicate. But that's what makes these great producers great. And I'm telling you, the line between mixer and producer is getting more and more blurry all the time, the more people record at home on their own stuff, because they want their song to sound better and they'll give it to a guy to mix. They don't realize every time that guy to mix is adding soundscapes and sound design and making the beat sound, more fitting to what it is you did, and changing up this and that. And he's producing too. He's literally producing too. That's what he's doing. So every time the thing sounds different than what you sent him, and it's not just a bunch of faders and pan knobs and EQs and compression, it's a totally different thing. It's now gone through his ears too, and his taste too. And I'm telling you, the more people do at home, the more mixers have to do to make themselves more valuable also. And that's the thing. I learned this when I entered that contest for Produce Like a Pro, is when I learned it. It struck me right afterwards. When you're working with a guy like a Joe Carroll producer, you're working with him, like he is the guy who produced that track. I shouldn't have gone in and went crazy with what I was doing for effects and, changing stuff. I shouldn't have done that. Not with that. Not in that situation. Or if I did, I should have put it in the remix category kind of thing. Instead, what I wound up doing, what I should have done is just mix what he gave me. I should have just pulled up the faders and been like, every choice was made on purpose for a reason. There's a lot of artists who might come from that way of thinking, and this is why communication is so important, because there's also a lot that don't. There's a lot that just do what they know how to do, and they don't know all the tricks, and they want you to impart every bit you can to make this as good as it can be, to add sound effects and to change the way things feel and to give it that extra something that they don't know how to do. So you got to communicate, figure out what people want from you. Figure out what they're willing to let you do. And every time somebody says to you, "Oh, just do just do you." I'm just curious. Go deeper than that, because that is often the same person who will tell you, "Oh, why'd you change these things?" Like, go deeper with what they want. Almost get them to spell it out. So you're okay with me adding sound effects and stuff that wasn't there. So you're okay with me chopping some of this up if I feel like the timing is messed up or could be better if, or you're okay with me using like all sorts of different ideas. And even then, once they agree to that, they still might be the person who tells you they didn't expect it or they didn't want that. I've had it all ways. Sometimes people say exactly what they want and they stick with it. And sometimes it's like, that's not the person who should have said that. You know what I mean? So you'll figure this out too. But the most important thing is your taste is everything. That's what will separate you. So don't compromise it, and don't start working on something that has an inherent problem in it that you can't fix. Get right out in front of that, because at the end of it, it won't be something you could ever show anyone or put in your portfolio or be proud of. Bottom line, you won't be proud of it. And you need to be proud of the stuff you work on. So I hope that helps. I'm curious what you guys think. Questions, answers, throw it in the comments. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate it. Evan Jaffe Custom Cut Studios. You guys got this. Take it easy.